What is up, everybody? It is a chilly morning here in the Panhandle, and with chilly weather comes tuna. Tuna season is right around the corner. These fish should be showing up any week now. So I decided to take some time and kind of share with you guys how to catch one of these fish from a kayak. That is going to be on everyone's bucket list this time of year. There's going to be so many kayakers going out there blind, so I'm going to dump as much information as I can. And thankfully, it's honestly one of the easiest fish you could catch. I said what I said. Yes, blackfin tuna are actually super easy to catch. It's more of a timing issue, and we're going to go over all of that. So let's get to it. Let's talk about it. Okay, so the first topic we're going to cover is safety. I know it's boring, but we got to cover it because it is crucial this time of year. First and foremost, by Florida regulation, you have to have a life jacket and you have to have a whistle or an air horn on the kayak at all times. Do it. Second, we're going to be out there in the dark a lot. We typically like to launch before the sun rises, so as soon as that sun peaks across the horizon, we're already trolling. That means we got to launch in the dark, which means you should be visible. Wear a headlamp, get some sort of light on your kayak, be visible. There are boats out there occasionally and you don't want to get ran over by one, so please have lights with you. And third, and most importantly, stay warm and dry. The water can get down to the 60s. If you take a spill out there, it's going to take maybe 20 to 30 minutes to get back to shore. By then you could have hypothermia, and this is a real concern. So I highly suggest keep a spare towel, sweatshirt, and sweatpants in a dry bag on your kayak. If for whatever reason you do take a spill and you're able to recover, change into dry clothes immediately. That's going to reduce the chance of hypothermia drastically. Thankfully, there's usually a bunch of guys out there trolling too, so you should have someone there to help you, but always try to go out there with some buddies as well. But the obvious answer to prevent that from happening is to only go out on calm days. If there are 2-footers rolling out there, there is no reason to risk your life going after these tuna. It's not worth it. So be safe, check the forecast, make sure you go out there on a good day, stay warm, stay dry, and have a good time. Okay, so let's go over timing. So usually these fish are prime between the months of November and March. Now every year is different. So last year we had a good run in November and March, but then the year before we had good runs throughout the entire winter. So fish are gonna do what fish are gonna do. Now between those months, the best time to target these fish are during the new moons. During the new moon, the Gulf is dark all night, so it forces these fish to feed during sunrise. Tuna have really big eyes. Big eyes are able to let in a lot of light, so during full moons, they can actually see pretty well out there. So the ongoing theory right now is they feed primarily at night during full moons, so by the time we get there in the morning, they're already full and they don't eat. That's why normally when we have amazing days and everyone's hooking up, it's usually during a new moon. That is also why the best time of day to target these fish are the first 2 hours of sunlight. We like to launch in the dark and we're already trolling as we're watching that sunrise over the horizon. Usually the bite shuts off at around 8:30, 9, sometimes 9:30. So the big takeaway is get there early. And the last timing factor to keep an eye on is water temperature. Now, we are still playing around with this because tuna are typically a warm water fish. However, they only come up here during the winter months. So the water temperature may not be as big as a factor as we think it is, but the ongoing trend is whenever that water temp hits around 65 to 68 degrees, that's when they're gonna show up. Okay, so you made it this far, you got the timing right, you're on the beach, it's a new moon, and you're about to launch. You're probably thinking, well, Chris, how do I know the tuna are actually here? Well, they can actually be pretty easy or not obvious at all. The first thing that I like to look for, which is just any kind of fishing situation, birds. If there are lots of birds and are actively feeding on little bait fish on the surface, there's a good chance there's gonna be tuna around. Whenever I get up and I see birds patrolling the Gulf, I know there's a good chance we're gonna get fish. The second sign, which might come to a surprise, is squid. Now, sometimes you can hear from your peer guys that they're catching squid, but you can actually visually see these squid from the beach. First thing in the morning, walk out to the water and just take a look around. You might actually see some squid right on the beach. And every time I've seen this, we've hooked up the tuna. Now, I've noticed that I saw them primarily in the springtime frame. I'm not too sure how much there are along the beach in the fall, but that is an awesome sign that you are gonna hook up to some tuna. And last but not least, the tuna are just gonna let you know. These fish do like to sky. They like to completely come out of the water and make a huge scene. Or they'll blow up on bait right next to your kayak and give you a heart attack. They make it pretty easy for you, so you'll know. Next topic, what to use. At the bare minimum, I recommend a 4,000 size reel and a medium heavy rod. The brand and the length are totally up to you, but at a minimum have those two things. This is my combo right here. So this is a 5,000 size Stratic, and this is a medium heavy Shimano Terramar. This combo right here will catch tuna. Now I've also gone heavier. I've used an 8,000 size Daiwa Saltist on a 8-foot extra heavy rod. That also works. You can really go as big as you want, but at a bare minimum, have at least a 4,000 size reel and a medium heavy action rod. As for braid, I personally would like to have 40 and above just to be on the safe side. I do know some higher end line of braid works just fine, like Taz line. There are guys out there trolling with 20-pound Taz line and they have no issues. But just to be on the safe side, I personally recommend 40-pound braid and up. As for the leader, I use fluorocarbon leader, and you use anything between 30-pound and 80-pound. So with the heavier leader, the less likely these fish are gonna break you. Now that being said, tuna can see very well. So there is a chance they're gonna see your 80-pound leader, which may limit the amount of bites you get that morning. Then on the flip side, if you go super light, sure, you might get hit a lot, but these fish can break you. I've seen it happen. That is why I personally like to be right in the middle of the spectrum. I like around 50 to 60-pound fluorocarbon leader. I get plenty of bites, never had any issues of them breaking. Good to go. Now let's talk lures. What do they eat? These are their favorite right here. These are Rapala X-Wraps, size 14 and size 12. This is in the glass ghost color, or just basically plain white. This is their favorite. Now, do you absolutely have to have the white one? No, not necessarily. I've caught plenty on other colors. I'm also going to be trying out different lures this year and see what else they like, because as of right now, we just know for sure they like X-Wraps. It's also no secret that X-Wraps are kind of expensive, so even if you have a different style jerkbait that's just plain white, they will also eat that too. You can catch these fish on a budget. And fishing these lures are super simple. You got two options. One, make a long cast out behind you, keep that bail open, pedal for about 15 seconds, and then flip the bail over. The second way I like to do it, just toss your X-Wrap in the water with the bail open and just pedal for 30 seconds and then just flip that bail over. I usually do that method if there's too many people around me and I can't really make a long cast. So either method works. As long as you have about 30 seconds of line out behind you, you should be good to go. You also want to keep your drag super loose. And when I mean loose, I mean you want it, yeah, about there. That's where you want your drag to be. You want it to be pretty easy to pull out of the reel. The reason why we do that is these fish hit like a freight train. If you have your drag set pretty tight, your entire rod will go flying out of the kayak. So once your rod starts screaming, pick it up, tighten the drag down, and start to fight. You got the rod, you got the reel, you got the X-Wraps, you're out in the Gulf, you're trolling, where do you go? Usually the depth that we find these fish are between 30 and 60 feet deep. And all we do is run parallel with the beach. Just back and forth, trolling that X-Wrap about 30 seconds behind you. That's it. This is why I made that comment earlier that these fish are just super easy to catch. That's literally all you do. You cast out and you pedal. Just get out there and start trolling, you will find a tuna. So let's talk fighting these fish. So your rod's gonna go crazy, you're gonna pick it up, you're gonna tighten the drag down, and the fight's on. You're gonna find out real quick why we all go out there to target these fish. They fight incredibly hard. But pretty much you're gonna fight like any other fish. Make sure you keep tension, don't give him any slack line, gradually work him in, and as you get him close to your kayak, you're gonna notice he's gonna do something. He's gonna start just spinning in circles, big circles underneath the kayak. It gets pretty annoying. Now, the best way to counter this is to keep fighting them, but slowly pedal forward. What that's gonna do, it's gonna make that tuna come up on your right or left side, whichever side you wanna land them on. And it's gonna set him up for the perfect gaff shot. Once he swings up next to the kayak and he's within arm's reach, go for it. Grab your gaff and get him. Now, an alternative method, you can also net these fish. I've done it before, they fit in my net perfectly, and I bought that net off of Amazon. I will leave that link down below in case you want to net these fish instead of gaffing, especially if you want to release them afterwards too. But this is the best part of the whole experience, guys. Fighting these fish is like nothing else. It's why we come back year after year to target these fish. It's something that I hope many kayakers can experience because it is such a great fight. Y'all are just gonna love it. All right, guys, I just got one more topic for you, and it's probably the most important one. As every year goes by, more and more people are becoming aware of our tuna population here in Navarre. Now, what a lot of people probably don't realize is that there is a ton of meat on just one tuna. Usually I catch one and I can hardly finish it. I don't know what to do with all the meat. I end up giving it away or cooking it for friends or something like that. What I don't want to happen are people to come in and catch 3, 4, 5, 6 tuna, keep them all, and then have like 5 of those tuna go to waste. Those fish could have been released for someone else to catch or for future generations to enjoy. I'm not saying don't keep any of them. That is fishing and hunting. We are here to find food. But there is some sort of responsibility on us as anglers that we need to be careful how much we harvest. So harvest what you need and not what you want. Now, if you don't think recreational anglers have an impact on fisheries, look at cobia. I'm also not completely oblivious. I do know the commercial fishery also has a huge impact on these fish populations, so I'm looking at you too, commercial guys. The cobia population in Florida is trash, and maybe 30 years ago, there were so many that were screaming, oh, just catch them all, there's plenty. And now, 30 years later, it's kind of hard to run some good cobia. I don't want that happening to these tuna. Like, this is such a cool fishery, and I don't want to see it get diminished over the years. Keep 1 or 2, enjoy the fish, they taste great. By all means, try them. But once you get 1, 2, or 3 in the bag for the season, try your best to release these fish, guys. I'll be trying out new lures this season and new tactics on catching them to try to increase the chances of releasing these fish. I completely understand it's fishing. Sometimes they hook themselves in the gills or something happens and they end up dying. By all means, keep them. That's just fishing, it happens. But the intentional act of just excessively killing these fish and most of that meat going to waste, that bugs me, and I don't want to see that happen. So please be respectful, protect this fishery, let it grow, let it thrive so everyone can enjoy it. All right, that's gonna be it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed that video and you learned something and got something from it. If you watch this video and you end up catching your first tuna based off the tips I'd share today, please let me know. Send me pictures on Facebook, man. I want to see and congratulate you. I'm not even joking. My Facebook name is Hookcraft. I'll leave it on the screen somewhere. Like, for real, send me pictures. Should be any week before we get our first good run of tuna. So take what you learned from this video, go grab some gear, grab some X-Wraps, and I'll see you guys out there.